It's Hanukkah, and as you might know, the Hanukkah story is about, Hanukkah means dedication, rededication. It's about, the Hanukkah story is about the Maccabees rededicating the temple and then gaining independence from their oppressors in the year 164-ish BCE. And then there's also the story of the oil lasting 8 nights when it was only supposed to last one. And for those who are dedicated enough, like the Maccabees, to hang around for their Jewish education, past bar bat mitzvah age, you learn that the story of the oil doesn't seem to exist, to our knowledge, until a few centuries after the time of the Maccabees. The Maccabees forgot to write it down, and the sages, the rabbis, give us a story of the oil. Why does it take a few centuries? Well, maybe just it didn't get written down, or maybe it didn't exist. And maybe it was that after the temple was destroyed, about 200 years after the time of the Maccabees, and the Maccabees state had gone over to Roman control about 100 years after the time of the Hanukkah story, that a holiday celebrating a temple that didn't exist and an independence that was no longer didn't make much sense anymore. So the rabbis reinvent and rededicate the Hanukkah story to one of God's miraculous intervention. Now, in the 21st century, I think that story of the oil, of God's dedication, begins to lose some of its luster for many Jews, especially after the horrible events of the mid-20th century. Hanukkah itself needs another reinvention and rededication, and for many Israelis, this meant going back to the story of fighting for your independence, for obvious reasons. For Americans, eventually Hanukkah becomes something else. It becomes, well, you know what Hanukkah is now. It's ugly sweaters and tchotchkes and things like this. And you know, if Hanukkah gets reinvented again because the old story isn't working, that seems to be part of the story of Hanukkah. And that the test of it isn't, are we loyal to the original story? Because I don't know that we've been loyal to the original story for any number of centuries now. But if we reinvent ourselves to leading a profoundly Jewish life, even when the larger culture is different from us, and if we rededicate ourselves to that, then that is the spirit of Hanukkah. Whether or not we tell one story or the other, or whether we use the great Hanukkah debate of applesauce or sour cream on your latkes, regardless of what we do, if we dedicate ourselves to existing to core Jewish principles as a minority and majority society, then we're celebrating the right way. Happy Hanukkah.